Hello there, and a huge welcome to today's episode of Gina Gardiner and Friends. Today is one of the series of episodes that we have in preparation for the Fatima's UK campaign, One Voice Summit. And I met my guest, Sean Daly, when we were at Millwall Football Club at a meeting all about helping young people in care and those who've left care. Sean is the CEO of Millwall Community Trust, and we're going to be talking about his work. But before we do, welcome, Sean. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to be talking about making a positive impact, and I'd like you to talk about your story and how you come to be the CEO of the Trust.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me. It's an absolute honour. Um, even from a young age, I knew sport was very important within my life. I excelled very well at sport within school. Um, and people I met sort of influenced and sort of like formed my role and how I've got to this journey now, really. Um, so sort of when I got to about 16, 17, I was going to college. Didn't really know what I was going to go into, but sport was quite a big motivator in that. So I sort of enrolled. I was playing semi-professional at the time down in Folkestone, playing football. And I met a gentleman down there who was my coach at the time, and he was very much impacted on my life about using football to have a journey. And he went on to become a professional footballer, and he went back into coaching to give back, really. So he had his own sort of like football camps down in Dover and Folkestone, etc. And he invited me along to come along and help. And some of these young kids were like 5, 6 years old, and
Yeah.
I got into it and sort of got the bug for it about coaching and supporting these young people while still playing and being at college. And then one day out of the blue, he just sort of said to me, he said, like, have you ever thought of taking this further? He said, I've got some friends out in America. Would you like to go out to America and do some coaching? And I thought, like, cool, that's a long way to go. So I sort of thought, well, opportunities come up and you've got to take opportunities. So I took the opportunity and went out to America and ended up 6 years out in America coaching at one of the MLS teams, football coaching. And that was sort of my journey about using sport to influence and change people's lives and improve them. So I went out to America, 6 years out there coaching, absolutely loved it. Got to the stage where the team that I was working for went bust, came back to the UK, but had already sorted out another role within
Yeah.
US. I had to come back and get a new visa. So I came back, typical politicians and government, my visa got delayed. So they said, oh, it's going to be 3 months. You're going to be stuck in the UK for 3 months. I thought, oh, what am I going to do for 3 months while I'm stuck in the UK? One of my friends was working for a professional football club. He said, what are you doing? I said, I'm actually doing nothing. I just need to be involved in football. So
Yeah.
he was working for Charlton Athletic at the time. And so I went and did some work for him, you know, got paid to do some working in the local community, working in youth centres, working late at night on the estates, just for 3 months. I thought nothing of it. It would just tick
Yeah.
over, get me some money to get me over there. Went back to the US, and literally within 2 months of being back in the US, get a phone call from Charlton, who had just been promoted to the Premier League, saying, "Look, we've got a job here. We'd like you to come and take it." So I had to make a decision whether to come back or whatever, and I just thought, well, I've got to come back to the UK sooner or later. So I literally came back to the UK and took up a role as a community officer at Charlton Athletic Football Club, and then spent the next 22 years working for them.
I just want to
So
stop you for a moment and we'll carry on with your journey in a moment. But what does a community officer do? Well, first of all, let's just clarify because we've got an audience, a lot of people in America who, when you talk about football, have a very different view of what football is. It's great big men with cages on and huge helmets. You're not talking about that, are you?
no, I'm talking about soccer. So I'm talking about the MLS. So I sort of, when I went out there to work at the MLS, I wasn't doing any community work. I was literally working with an under 16s team at Tampa Bay Mutiny, the boys that were going to be the next players in the MLS. So I was working with like the excellence of the players out there. Community is very different. Community is working within your local area, but using sport as an engagement tool. And that's what I came back to in when I came back to England. What football has developed very well here is they've developed charity arms of the football clubs. And those football clubs will go in and work in their local area, but using football as an engagement tool. Using the football club as getting into the local community around health, employment, education, all different things, antisocial behaviour, working around crime and all different things like that. That's what I then went into, which is a niche that I didn't really think of. When you become a football coach, you always want to work at the excellence. You want to work with
The
the
elite,
players that
don't
are
you?
earning millions.
Yeah.
But, and lucky enough, when I was at Charlton, I worked with both because I worked as an academy coach with young players that were the 10% of the best players in the country. But then I also worked with what I would see is the best job in the world. I was using football to try and change people's lives. Is what sport had done for me. It changed my life. It gave me opportunities that I wouldn't get before. I would never have gone to America and become a coach at an MLS team without football, without soccer. So I now want to make sure that soccer or football can now change people's lives within the UK and how I'm going to do that.
I want to talk to you about your 22 years because we'll talk about some of the other stuff later. Did that role change within that 22 years? I mean, that's two generations almost, isn't it? So when you first started to now, how has the job changed?
Well, when I came to Charlton, there was just literally football communities or soccer communities were only just beginning to build. I came at the time when there was just myself and maybe two other staff members. The person that started it and the CEO, the deputy CEO, is now gone on to become a Liverpool CEO. Um, it was very different, but in 22 years, it grew to the biggest football community program in the world. So Charlton Athletic were renowned around the world as the best deliverer of it. It grew to about 150 staff members. We grew from just delivering holiday camps for children when they're out of school
Yeah,
to dealing with national problems, obesity, crime in the country, county lines, um, unemployment. We dealt with unbelievable issues, but using football as the engagement tool. And people always used to say to me when I was at Charlton, when I said I'd done 22 years at Charlton, and young people look at me and go, 22 years in the same job. And I used to say, they said, oh, I'd only want to stay in a job for 2 years and move on. But because the job was evolving every day and every week, there was no need to move.
no,
Your job was changing every day. You know, I never had the same day. I loved every day at Charlton. I loved every day, the same as I love every day at Millwall. I love every day because nothing will be the same. I'll meet people that the sport would have engaged with them and changed their life in some way. You know, if I think back 22 years ago, would I be running a food bank? No. 22 years ago, I was taking a bag of footballs to a school to just do some work with some kids in a school. Now, I'm running a food bank. I'm sitting on police steering groups dealing with children around county lines and how we're going to combat knife crime within the local area. That isn't what I thought was going to happen 22 years, but the job has evolved, and lucky enough, people have seen that football or sport could be the turning tool for the certain things that are going on within the country. Um,
there'll be
so
people sorry to interrupt you, but there'll be people who are listening to this who you've used the phrase county lines two or three times, and they won't understand what that is. Can you explain to our listeners what you mean by county lines?
so um, London as a city is very much around gangs. There is a lot of gangs, same as it be in lots of major cities. There's lots of gangs that will own certain areas or think they own certain areas, within their boroughs or within their area, and they will run that area with crime and drugs and corruption, all different things in their area. But what happens is the police force are very clever. They're getting onto these, and a lot of these people are being arrested, etc. But these groups will realise for them to make a lot more money, they need to expand further outside their area,
Yeah.
and they will look at certain areas that they think that they can go and integrate those areas with their groups. So they will go to places like the coast. They will go to people down further down south where the police aren't so strong as they are in the big cities like London, Manchester, etc. But what these groups will do is they will recruit vulnerable people that are in their area, and they will then ship those people down to those areas of the coast to help develop their what they would call their business, the drugs and crime, etc. So they will take young people from London and they will take them down for long term down to the south coast, and their role will be to help develop their drug empires or their crime empires. And these young people could be as young as 12, 13 years old. And these families don't know where they are. So we will work closely with the police about how we can get young people into positive activities, get them away from crime, and then help try and support them into employment, into education, into college, just trying to get them away from negative things that are going on around them. But again, using sport as the sort of like the tool.
Isn't it interesting how sport, and I think that probably another parallel that works well is music,
Yeah.
that I've spoken to so many people on the show, for example, and my background as a head teacher or principal, so many people who seem they don't feel as if they belong, they're disaffected, and so they'll look for others who will give them that sense of belonging. And initially, I would suspect with things like county lines, they're looking for vulnerable people. And then because they show them some attention, and to start with, it's not about the drugs, it's about come and join us, come and be one of us. That unless they've got something else which is a bigger draw, a bigger sense of belonging, then they are bamboozled, if you like, into joining those gangs. And once that happens, it's too late, they feel, to turn back.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree, and that's exactly as the path runs for them. But as a football club, we are a football club that has 20,000 people that offer a lot of belonging because people buy into the soccer club and they come to the games, and it's we're trying to get that family experience when they come to a game, that it's not just about Saturday. You can be involved in Millwall Football Club, and when I was at Charlton, from Monday to Sunday we have loads of activities going on. Activities are built around you. It's not just one hat fits all. If you want to come to do a bit of football, you want to go do basketball, want to do a bit of music, we have all of that here within the club. And it's getting those young people in there and then feeling that sense of belonging, and then saying, well, there is avenues you can go now. You can go down education, we can get you employment, we can get you a trade, we can do whatever. So yeah, you hit it spot on the head what it's around, and then they thrive off that. We've just got to try and break that crime, that circle for them.
I think it's very sad that we've got to the stage where so many young people feel that they don't belong. And, people would say I'm old now, but I can remember certainly not only as a child, but also in my early years, my professional career, that there were lots of things that young kids could do. They could go to the youth club. There were clubs and activities, and certainly in the UK, most of those, I would say, have disappeared. And, there's an old saying that the devil makes work for idle hands, that if young people have got nowhere to go, nothing to do, and they're bored, then they're going to more likely to engage in things that society doesn't want them to do.
No, I agree on that. If you look at the government, they closed a lot of the youth centres. There's not activities for the kids so much, especially in the cities.
Yeah.
There's not the greenery. There's flats after flats after flats being built. And then of course there becomes other distractions for these young people because they haven't got the positive activities there. And and I think that's where the football clubs, the soccer clubs have come in and sort of said, well, we have those activities at our stadium. We do a lot of work within the estate, so we don't actually ask people to come to us. We go to them and
Right.
put lots of activities around to try and get those young people involved in positive activities. And my staff work late at night till 11 midnight at night, working with the police to put up these good activities that these young people can come to.
We're going to go for a short break now, Sean. When we come back, I want to talk about why do you think sport is so effective in engaging people and what are the benefits of sport? We'll be back in just a minute.
Excellent. Thank you. Let me just quickly go and someone just knocked at my door. One sec.
Okay.
Yeah, good. Yeah, all good, thanks. Yeah, no, it's one of the lads knocked on my door. I thought there was a problem, but he knocked on the door to say good morning. I think more like just to show that he was here.
Welcome back. So, Sean, before the break, I asked you what you felt was special about sport. Why does that engage people in such a powerful way?
Um, I think I think sports achievable by everybody. I think that whatever level you are, and there's going to be people that exceed in sport and people that don't exceed. I think sport can be achievable by everybody. And I think there's lots of buys into sport. You got the teamwork stuff straight away. You got the physical activity. You've got that sort of working as a team to achieve something, whether it's an individual sport yourself, like like the tennis, or whether it's a team sport like soccer. You've got to put some hard work to get there, and whatever level it is. And I think achievement is very people want to see achievement. Young people want to achieve things, uh, whether it's in sport, music, or whether they want to achieve things and they want to be recognised. And I think sport gives them that easy win. But also, I think it's when I grew up, I played football for my school, I played for my county, I played for my district, and you were recognised as, oh, he's a good footballer, and people accepted you very much so. And I think football or sport is very acceptable by everybody, and it's a quick win for people. What I have found is that um, sport, lots of people have interest in sport, whether it is tennis, cricket, soccer. And I think it opens up a conversation straight away with people. You know, yeah, what team do you support? Or, what are you good at? I didn't know you like tennis. And then that sort of gets the conversation going very well. It's a bit like music, but I just think it's an easy kill for people to talk on straight away. Is let's talk about sport, what sport do you like? I like tennis. Oh, what's your favourite player? And then you can get that conversation. So I think it breaks down lots and lots of barriers.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because if I think about um, what sports did for children when I was at school, is that those who were struggling perhaps with academic or finding it difficult to make friends or were not comfortable in the school environment, whatever it was, they found something that they were good at, found something that they were enthusiastic about, not only did the activity improve because they worked at it, but there was a knock-on impact on all of the other stuff as well. So whatever they were good at, and it didn't matter whether it was chess or art or music, and they felt better about themselves, then everything improved. And I just wondered if you've had any evidence that young people engaging in sport have then done better in school.
Yeah, I mean, we work quite closely with a lot of schools around this area, um, and so some of the work we'll work around is attainment at schools.
Yes.
So we get a lot of young people don't come to school for certain reasons or are late for school. So we're working very closely with some schools that are around this area around attainment in the morning.
Yeah.
So what we will do is we will go into some various schools and we'll put on like a breakfast club. Now
Yeah.
their breakfast club may be like a fitness program in the morning, and their breakfast will be there, the cereal, etc. But the idea is for the term, the 12 weeks. We will be there at 8 o'clock. School starts at half 8. We will do half hour of physical activity, get these children in that are usually quite late. At the end of the 12 weeks, if they had done 10 weeks out of 12 turning up, they may get a gift, a Millwall gift, a swim bag or a water bottle or tickets to a game. But what we have seen is that improves them for the day.
Yeah.
So they come in, they've got, they've had their breakfast, which they may not have got at home.
Yeah.
They come in and do a bit of fitness work with us, so straight away their mind is a little bit better, and they're more engaged when they sit in that classroom at 9 o'clock in the morning. So we're working very closely with schools around how can we work with young people that have got an interest in sport but are struggling with the system. They're so struggling with the system. So, I mean, we have an employer at the moment. She's called a primary stars officer. And all she's done is she's changed the national curriculum into sport.
Yeah.
And she's working with children that are underachieving in numeracy and literacy
Yeah.
because they can't understand the normal system. So what she might say is she might say, right, we're doing multiplication today. You are a football coach and your team are going to run 6 laps of the pitch. The laps are 200 meters. Please work out how much distance do the players run. And all she's done is change the national curriculum into sport. That's all she's done. But this is a way of engaging the young people, and their levels have gone up in numeracy and literacy because we've just gone back to the basics, change it into sport, something they're interested in. They're more engaged in it. Now, no disrespect to the school teachers, they're dealing with 30 children.
Yeah.
My office is dealing with 5 or 6, but having that one-to-one attention with them has now changed how they look at numeracy, literacy, etc.
I think it's interesting because initially you look at the language that they're using, but I think that's the tip of the iceberg, and I think it's really important. But when I put my educator's hat on, and it's a while since I was in schools, but inevitably you're finding something that that person is interested in, so they're already engaged in a different way. Small group, so that there is that individual attention, because young people who are failing are very good at hiding in the classroom and hiding the fact that they're struggling. And as a result, it's quite difficult not only to pick them up sometimes, but also then to have the time to actually spend with them to move things on. Nothing breeds success like success. Nothing breeds more failure like failure. And I think what you're doing within that sort of activity is giving youngsters the opportunity to succeed. And I think that's so important. It's my belief that poor self-worth is a global epidemic level, that if you don't feel good about yourself, then you're going to take note of what other people say about you in a much stronger way, if you like. And if people are constantly telling you you can't, you're rubbish, you're no good, you're of no account, then you start to believe it.
Yeah.
And once you believe that, I think it's a downward slope, because when somebody suggests something, you don't have the inner strength to say, I'm worth more than that. I'm not going to go down that route. And I think that's why your programs are so powerful and so important. If you look going forward, what for you are the next plans? I mean, you've expanded in the 22 years hugely from holiday clubs with your bag of football to now you have a whole well, it's the difference between having one instrument and now having a complete orchestra. What other things would you like to add to your band?
Yeah. So 20, you're 22 years at an organisation, you're very comfortable.
Yeah,
Um, so 6 years ago, a role came up within Millwall, which is a more of an inner city
yeah,
organisation than Charlton. Where Charlton's sort of like on the verge of London, where Millwall you're sort of in Lewisham and Southwark, um, and the opportunity came up for a second in charge. Now I've always wanted to be in charge of a soccer charity, because I was head of my department, but I was never going to be able to get to that top. And the opportunity came up to become number two at an organisation. Um, but I went in there with the remit is I'm not ready to lead a trust. I'm not ready to do that yet. Um, so I would only take a role where I felt that I would learn from somebody else. I'd bring in my 22 years experience. So came to the role, um, and within 6 months of me coming here, the CEO left, which was a massive shock because I hadn't even got my feet under the table, and I've had to deal with it. So the club decided that they would give me the role as interim, which I was happy, but I was honest with them. I said, "Look, I'm not the finished product, and I never will be the finished product." Um, So they gave it to me, and then within 3 months of that, COVID hit and we shut down. So they shut the organisation down. But that gave me, and so for the next 6 months, the organisation was shut down. I only had me and possibly one other staff that was
yeah,
allowed to work. Everybody else went on furlough. But what it done, it gave me an opportunity to look at. I came in every day, and I came in and said, "Right, I'm going to reset us as an organisation. What do we do well and what do we don't do well?" And because of COVID going on, I went and worked at a food bank every day. I went in a local community. Me and the other officer went and worked at Lewisham Hospital every day with the nurses. My wife didn't want me to do that because COVID was rife in the hospitals. But it's something I felt I had to go and do and to find out what the local community was. Came out of that, I reset the button of what I felt Millwall Community Trust should be doing in a local organisation. So I set about setting up new things. Right, I'm going to work with the police. I'm going to work with more community groups and find out what their needs are. I'm going to set myself up with the councils. What are the needs in the area? If we're going to be a brand within the area, we need to be servicing the area what the brand needs. We don't need to be doing football courses for children. Let's do football courses for children that are on free school meals, that have no access to this, they have no money to do this. And by the way, we're going to feed them. So
mm,
last summer, for instance, we did 7,500 free holiday places in the summer over
yeah,
the 6 weeks, only for children that are on free school meals. And what we also did then is we fed them. So my club provided free meals, 7,500 meals. So no other provider was doing that in the borough. Um, let's go and work at the toughest estates in my area, Lewisham, Southwark. Let's go and work with these gang members. Let's try and stop them recruiting young people. Let's try and get them into employment and education. So we've really become a force within my borough. That's what we've now become. I want to become the organisation that people come to and say, look, we have an issue. Can the football club help? Not financially, because the football club will not put their hands in their pockets and give £20 million out. They don't do that. But what I have is resources and knowledge to go out and help people. But I'm not going to do it on my own. I'm going to work in partnerships. So I'm not going to come and trample on other community stuff groups because they do some great work. How can we help those community groups to be even more powerful within the area? So that's that's what I'm hoping to do. We're a long way from it, but we're actually chipping away at it at the moment, which is something that I wouldn't have said 6 years ago we were doing.
It's interesting because people may wonder, why did I invite you on the show? And I think that in that last 2 minutes, you've made it very clear because if more organizations chose to work within the community, work together rather than just imposing stuff, I think we'd have a very different society. We're going to go for a short break now, but when we come back, I want to focus particularly on those youngsters who are in the care system or who've left the care system and how you're helping them and the plans to help them in the future. Because our summit is about those youngsters who, through no fault of their own, have been taken into care, often under very difficult circumstances. And sadly, their life chances at the moment are hugely reduced when compared to their peers who stay at home. Now, safeguarding and making sure that they're safe and they're not in any way abused or neglected is really important. But ultimately, their emotional needs, their needs are not being met very often. And I suspect that one of the ways that you help hugely is to help them have a sense that they matter and that they belong.
Yeah.
So please don't go away. We'll be back in just a minute. Welcome back. Sean, before we had the break, you were talking to us about what you're doing within your organization. And I have to say, when I look at and listen to you talking about what you did during COVID, what an amazing opportunity that you created out of something that was very negative. Before we just talk, I just thinking about it during the break. Do you think that if COVID hadn't happened and that you had been busy doing your job and not going into food banks and the hospital and to local communities in that way, would your vision for the future be the same now as it is because you were spent that time in food banks and hospitals, or would it be different?
Ah, I would definitely say that the COVID gave us an opportunity to reset and think about what we were doing as an organisation. Um, my vision would have totally been different if it wasn't for COVID. I realised that the needs of people during COVID was unbelievable, and there was people that were being left, and we didn't know about some of these people. They were like invisible,
Yeah,
and they're invisible to the government, they're invisible to the councils, they're invisible to everyone, and they were on the breadline, some of these people, and I was going around delivering, working at food bank, but using, the club minibus to go and deliver stuff, um, and people that would never have had access to it. So it totally changed how I felt about the organisation,
yeah,
how I then presented my vision to the trustees, and then to have the buy-in of my staff, because the same staff returned, they hadn't seen what I'd seen. And it was for me then to sort of say to my staff is that this is how I think we should go back as an organisation. And lucky enough, all of them, or near enough all of them, bought into what some wanted to go back to what they wanted to do before, but I wanted to change what we did. We have grown into what I think now is a very powerful organisation within the community. Um, Not powerful as in, we dictate what's done, but more powerful of what we deliver, because
yeah,
that's what we are. We're a delivery model. Um, you know, if I look at my food bank, I set up a food bank. We were servicing 30 families a week during COVID. Unfortunately, that food bank has now grown to 120 families a week.
goodness,
But the issue I have now is that the clientele has changed who used to come. The people that used to come to the food bank were people that were very much struggling on benefits and couldn't have access to this. I'm now seeing people that have got full-time jobs
yeah,
are now accessing my food bank because they can't make ends meet. They're not bringing enough money into the house to do it, but they're a full-time job. They're a nurse, they're a teacher, they're whatever, which is making me very sad. And there's things like, that I'm seeing now that our food bank will give out tins of food and stuff like that, and they'll return it. And they say, look, it's no good giving me tins of food. I can't pay the electric bill to cook that food that's coming out of a tin. So, how do we then help it? How do we help there? I'm trying to bring in other companies that will donate money that we've got. We can give them like electric vouchers so they can cook that food. You know, so COVID has very much changed it, but the place hasn't changed. What
Right.
has come is more problems have come in there. Um, so then we're trying to get them, if people are in full-time employment, how do we upskill them through our employment program to maybe get in a better job that pays them more money, or they can do the same job they are, but access a lower level of funding or a lower level of... COVID has definitely changed my vision. Trustees.
I have to say, my hat's off to you that you've gone out there and you've looked and you've found what the problem is. Because I think very often there is an assumption what the problem is rather than really getting to the grassroots and finding out what it is. So, a huge accolade to you, Sean, for what you've done and how you've moved that on. Because being flexible, being ready to change and to move, I think is really important. And the other thing that strikes me is that collaboration. And that's one of the reasons for the summit, because we believe that there's some great stuff going on in the care system and beyond, but it's very fragmented. People are quite territorial at times, and that gets in the way of progress. But let's move the conversation now to young people in care and care leavers. I know that you've become involved in that. Talk us through why you became involved and what you're up to.
Yeah, so our biggest clientele is probably young people, and that ranges from we talk about as an organisation that we engage people at 4 years old through our toddler soccer and our physical activity programs, right through to 85-year-olds that are attending our old people's um, walking sports, etc. So, but a big cohort of those the people that we see, which is around about 16,000 people a year, is young people,
Yeah.
and we're trying to create opportunities for everybody. It doesn't matter what their background is, where they've come from, where they are, whether etc. So our big thing is about how do we get young people into our programs and then a journey. It's all about a journey, about developing their journey at their time. So we'll have physical activity programs that young people can come and join in, whether it's basketball, cricket, sport, music, whatever. And then we will try and engage that young person into employment or education. Um, so we'll work with any young people about how can we help and support them into their roles, into their journey. And what we do have is we have a lot of my staff are mentors and I mentor as well. So a young person may come in, they'll sit with us, and it may be they're a care leaver and they don't know what to do around about housing or around employment, around getting a bank account, around that sort. And my staff will in here and myself will look about right. What would you like to do? And a lot of these young people don't know what they want to do.
Hmm.
So we will try and give them work experience in here, whether it's hospitality, whether it's coaching, whether it's security, all different things around here, giving them some work placements. But then we'll look at, right, let's see if we can get you into education. All right. Do you want to go to college? Do you want to go to college? Do you want to go to university? What sort of college do you want? Do you want to get an apprenticeship? Do you want to get a trade and earn as you like, as you think? And then what we have is we have lots of partners that we can bring in that can help them with getting them a fixed address, because that's a big thing for somebody. Without a fixed address, they then can't get a bank account, they can't get references, etc. So we will work with lots and lots of partners about how we can be, I would say, a jigsaw for that person.
Yeah.
We're not going to be all of it, but we may be able to be the first part, a corner, and then we might bring able to bring housing in that might be the little bit of in there, then employment that might be the education,
Yeah.
and then trying to build this jigsaw for that person. But I think the whole big part about it is that stability.
Yeah.
Young people haven't got stability in some of their households, whether they're in the care system or not. And it's being that stability that people can walk in my door or walk in our door and talk to somebody, and that person will always be there. If that person isn't there, there'll be somebody else.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky enough to have a stadium where I have 20 computers in here every day. I have a gym, etc. The community are allowed to come in and use that stuff free of charge anytime they want. So I
Yeah.
have a lot of people that come in here and sit and use my computers to
Yeah.
look for jobs. And then, but I've got staff that are around that will engage with them and say, "What are you doing?" "Oh, I'm trying to find a job in construction." "Oh, let me help you," and they'll show them how to do it. I'm trying to look about where I can help somebody around getting benefits and things like. Oh, we'll have the skills in there to help direct them, so we'll be able to support them. So that's really our role at the moment. Is I think trying to be part of a jigsaw
Yes.
and help that young person, and then bring other people in that can help build that jigsaw as well.
It sounds to me that whilst the jigsaw's a great analogy, for me that you're a support system where for many of these people they feel completely isolated and alone, and they don't know how to navigate the system, whatever system that may be. And it's incredibly challenging sometimes these days because people say, you phone up maybe to ask a question, they'll say, go and look at the website. Well, if you're not computer literate, navigating your way around some of these websites is challenging, even when you know the websites, let alone if it's the first time you've looked at them. And they don't know, if you don't know what you don't know, how do you know what's available? Where do you start to have a hub where you can go, where there is somebody there who can help you, may not know all the answers, but knows where to find the answers? I think that that's absolutely precious. It's a real jewel in the crown. And I hope that it's something that gets the opportunity, the support to grow. Sad we need it, but thank goodness it's there.
Yeah, and I think it's on both sides as well. The mentoring of my staff with young people has been great for the young people, but it's also been great for my staff as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
Because they've grown as people. I was talking to somebody in the office the other day. Is that we've just offered one of our young lads a full-time role, and he's been in here for what, 10 years,
yeah,
but not got that full time. And I was saying that the way I've seen him grow as a young person in here because he's got mentors around him, but how he's developed other people around him.
yeah.
So it's not one way system. This is two-way system. It's helping those young people, but it's also helped my staff. My staff have grown and developed themselves by being around that young person and putting themselves out of the box and going to help find things for those young people. My young people don't know their way all around websites and that, but they've been set with a challenge by a young person, and they're able to work together, what sport does, to get that achievement from it. So,
I think it's amazing. They say if you want something technical done, ask somebody between the age of 9 and 14. And I think there's a lot to be said for that.
without a doubt, I'll give my phone to my boy. He sets it for me straight away. An 8-year-old setting the phone up for me. So,
Yeah, definitely. We're going to go for another break in a moment. We come back, I'd like to spend a bit of the time before the end of the show talking about the lessons that you've learned that would be valuable for other organizations, sport, definitely, but I think the parallels in other industries is just as strong. And I think, you have such a lot of experience. You've seen changes over the years. What are the things that there's an organization who wants to start working with the community, helping people, what are the lessons that if you'd known at the beginning what you know now, things could have moved more quickly. So we're going to come back after the break. The first thing I want people to know is where they can find you if they want to engage with you, perhaps to pick your brains, or perhaps because they want to be involved in one of the activities that you're engaged in within your community. So don't go away. Lots of really useful information. Be back in just a minute. Welcome back. So, Sean, where
Okay.
can people find
Well,
you?
let me just grab a copy. So I'm on my website, so we're on the millwallcommunity.org.uk. My website, I'm happy to give out my email address. So my email address is Sean Daly, Daly at millwallcommunity.org.uk. So I'm happy with that. Uh,
I'm going to stop you. Can you repeat your email address because you froze?
yeah, sure. So my email address, Sean. Sorry. No, I'll go back. Can I take that again? Sorry.
Yeah,
My email address is sdaly. Is that okay to go again? Yeah. Sdaly, Daly, at millwallcommunity.org.uk.
lovely. Thank you very much.
And the community trust website, which you can find everything, is www.millwallcommunity.org.uk.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. So, now, if you're an organization that's thinking about supporting people, young people, whatever, what are the lessons that you've learned that you think only I'd known that it would have made life so much easier, better?
Yeah, I think the big thing for me was that not one hat fits all.
Yeah,
And I talk this a lot when I speak to my SLT about it, is that what are we actually here for? Are we here for ourselves, or are we here for the young people and the people that are going to be involved in our program? So it's no good us going and setting up a program because we feel that's the program that is needed in the area. So we do a lot of consultation with young people and find out what they want and what they need and what's their pitfalls and what they think would benefit them and the local community. Because I think once you get the buy-in from them, they're likely to turn up to your sessions and whatever you
yeah,
do. So it's no good me going, oh, right, we're going to go down and we're going to set up a cheerleading session down in one of the hot spots of crime estates in Lewisham because I think that's what we should do. Whereas you speak to the young people, and the young people might say, no, what we would like is we'd like a basketball session down here um, for this age group because they're the age group that are vulnerable around here at the moment, but also it would buy in the community. So I think it's very important to have consultation with
yeah,
those young people and that community about what their needs are. Every community is going to be different. Their needs for social is going to be very different. We're working with a group at the moment about young mothers down in an area in one of the estates
yeah,
because there's high population of young mums that have got children, so they need some childcare, but they want to get back into employment.
yeah.
How do they get into employment? So we're doing a lot of work around them about how do they get flexible companies to go and work for flexible companies. What we also have found is that there's a need down there for young mums working from home because they've got childcare responsibilities. Now that may be very different in a different part of London,
Yeah.
where there's easy access to get to companies. Companies are very flexible, working from home and that. So it's really finding out what your community need, what the young people need, and then to build your programs and your things around that need. And then you're getting in the buy-in from the community and you're getting the buy-in from those young people. And then my next bit is that once that program is going or whatever you're doing is the ongoing consultation with it.
Yeah.
Because young people then will say, well, I want it to develop like this, or we felt that wasn't right. And then you can redesign it, reevaluate your programs from that. So it's really having that buy-in from those young people. And some of those young people are unbelievable entrepreneurs of what they want to do and what they want to grow. And I think if you're taking their views into it, they're going to be more engaging with it.
I think that's really true of anything. If you're wanting to engage with other people, if you try and impose, you may get something in the short term, but it's never going to last in the long term. My next question is, what have been, if you look back over 22 years, which is, a hell of an amount of time, What have been your biggest challenges and how have you overcome them?
Uh, I think I when I came to Millwall, I inherited a lot of staff that were not just treading the water and doing what they wanted to do. They were probably stuck in their ways a little bit.
Yeah,
They were sort of very much around, well, we've done it like this for the last 10 years before you came here, Sean, so why would we change? I think it's getting that across and I lost some staff along that journey because they didn't want to change how I felt we should have changed. And then of course I brought a lot of staff in that are on that journey with me, you
yeah,
know, and they're the ones. And one of the things I would say is I out of respect for people, I maybe spent 95% of my time trying to change people and 5% on time with people that are already in that journey.
yeah,
And then I reflected myself on it and said, I should be spending 95% of my time on those people that want that journey,
yeah,
that are in it, and 5% on it. And I changed my way around that. And I lost a lot of staff through that way, which was fine because those people wouldn't be on this same journey now. And by being involved in that 95% of that change and working with those people, I've seen them grow.
yeah,
And I am, I was lucky enough at Charlton is I worked with a CEO that gave you the freedom to do what you wanted to do.
yeah,
He was never one that was micromanaged you. He was on top of you and said, I want it done like this. He sort of gave you the reins and said, go away and do it. But what I will say, Sean, if it all goes wrong, you're going to have to be accountable,
yeah. That's
which
really
is fine.
important, isn't it? Taking
Yeah.
accountability.
And I really respected that, and I've taken that to here. So
Yeah,
what I've said to everyone in here is, guys, go and do what you think is right. You know what the vision is. We're here to impact the community and improve people's lives, but be accountable if it all goes wrong. I will never ever say no if you show me that you've gone down the right road and you are accountable for what you're doing. And that is why my staff have grown because I'm never on top of them. I never ever say, I do have meetings with them and say, like, what we're doing, who are
yeah.
you working with, you know, but that has helped them grow as individuals as well. And then I think what they're doing is they're bringing that into the young people they're working with now, giving them the freedom to work.
That's interesting because I work with businesses, and my work is all around empowerment and leadership. And the model that you give, so long as people are very clear of what the vision is and what the parameters are, then giving them the sense that they have responsibility and that they're trusted and that they can use their creativity, their solution finding, rather than being micromanaged, is what motivates people. Money is a motivator, but it used to be number 5 on the list of motivators. I don't know whether it's still there, but that sense that I am making a positive difference, that my contribution really, really counts, is the biggest motivator, particularly when that is um, matched by giving people credit when things go well and holding them to account in a really constructive way. What have you learned? How are you going to do something different in order to move this forward? That's the greatest motivator. And it strikes me, not only do you give it to your staff, but also that's a model that's going out to your youngsters as well.
No, no, and it's been seen by, the staff I have now hasn't changed within the last 4 years. The staff that I've recruited and come in, and they seem to be. I don't get involved in their conversation, but I hear them talk to people saying, this is probably the best place I've worked. Is that, I'm not micromanaged. I'll do whatever I want. All Sean ever says is there is bills to pay, and we've got to make sure that that's done. Um, but we're growing as an organisation. Um, are we in it to people to go, oh, Millwall Community Trust are unbelievable? I don't think we do. And, every time I meet somebody, they say to me, we never hear about that. Well, we're not in here to hear about how good Millwall Community Trust are. We're here to empower and help our community. And it's when when you go, the fans say, we've got probably one of the best community trusts in the country, but no one ever hears about it. You
Mm.
don't need to hear about it. The only people that need to know about it are the people that are working here. and the people in our local community. That's all the only people that need to hear about it.
Well, I'm really thrilled that we've been able to give you the opportunity for lots of people to hear about it because we have millions of listeners. But I think the important thing is this is not about ego. This is about sharing a dream that you're making a reality. Because if this dream was replicated by clubs, whatever the sport, by music organizations, by art organizations, by technology organizations, whatever, if this was replicated, we would be living in a very different society, one that I think would be much kinder, one that would be much more supportive, where everybody could thrive. And so it's been an absolute pleasure to be able to invite you to come and talk about what you're doing. And I, for one, am saying thank you. Um, and I think just before we finish, you used the phrase, I let people do what they like. I don't think that's actually quite true. I think that it's not a carte blanche, but you've set the vision, you've set the parameters very clearly around the dream and around your values. And that is just so important. Before we go, and we're pretty much out of time, just give people your contact details again.
Yep. So I'm contactable on my email address, which is sdaly, that's Daly, at millwallcommunity.org.uk. But we have a website, which is www.millwallcommunity.org.uk. So you can see all our programs and everything on there. But yeah, I'm happy to take emails and discussions.
Brilliant. So, Sean, thank you very much. If you're interested in knowing more about the summit, which is on the 23rd and 24th of April this year, 2025, at the Guildhall in London, then go to fatimasukcampaign.com, which is the website, or you can email me at Gina Gardiner and Friends at gmail.com. It just remains for me to say to you, Sean, thank you very much for joining me today. And to say to all of you, I'd love to hear from you. Um, Let me know what you think. If you are in care or you've left care or you're working in the care system and you've got stories that you want to share, then please do contact me, Gina Gardiner and Friends at gmail.com. Now, on a completely different note, if you're a musician or you know a musician, they've got to be good, that's a given, who would like to be on my other show, which is Gina Gardiner Showcases Tomorrow's Talent, as long as you're not signed up by one of the record labels, if you're interested in coming on my show, sharing 4 tracks of your music and having an interview, then there's a form to complete, which is Gina Gardiner, GinaGardiner, tomorrowstalent.com. Gina Gardiner, tomorrowstalent.com, and fill out the form. And who knows, you could be sharing your music with millions of people and having a conversation with me. And I'd really love to do that. So, once again, thank you very much for joining us, and I'll see you on the next show. Take care now. Bye bye.